email out afterwards.
I just recorded it, Michael. You okay with that?
Perfect. Yeah, yeah, she'll want.
Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And yes, we don't know what happened to Anne. We hope that everything's okay, as Michael said. And Michael will continue to admit people as I guess I'm telling my story. So I guess some of you don't know me. So hi, Randy.
Hi.
My life was a series of very happy, very unfortunate, and very paranormal events, as has been the lives of many of you, I think. So what I'm going to talk about is really how well, Anne wanted me to talk about awakening, what happened. It was a series of shocks, one thing, then another, then another. So I grew up as a child in the Air Force, and I had incredible anxiety and depression. I had a lovely family, I had wonderful friends, and yet I had this overwhelming anxiety and depression. And I was terrified. I was terrified every night that my parents were out and I was alone, and I never understood it. And I was also leaning towards being suicidal. I wanted to end my life all the time, and became fixated on things like that. But I never actually did it. I never attempted to take my life. I had this feeling that if I did, I'd miss something good would happen. I was too curious. So very early on, I was getting glimpses of the non-physical world. And my mother was very disapproving of this. And we were scolded as children that there are no spirits, just the spirit of Christmas. And I was always told that it was my vivid imagination. And so most of my life, I figured that because I believed my mother, I knew it was my imagination. So clearly I was descending into insanity, or I expected at some point someone would tap me on the shoulder and say, "Come back to the asylum, Elizabeth." I just was waiting for that moment. I figured I was imagining my life, and with this vivid imagination that I was told that I had. So I didn't focus on anything like that. We were fed a steady diet of nature programs and just any scary ghost movies. We were not allowed to watch that. It was kind of interesting. And it was only decades later, in my 40s, that I finally told my mom, "Look, I'm psychic." And she said, "Oh no, oh no, oh no, what are you going to do?" And I said, "You knew?" She goes, "Oh yes." She said, "When you were 4 years old, the kids were talking in the basement and they were telling ghost stories." And she said, "As soon as I heard that, I ran to the basement stairs." And she said, "You were just coming up the stairs. You were white as a sheet. And I knew you saw that horrible thing in the basement." I thought, what? And she wouldn't tell me about that for another 10 years. And it turned out that because we were in the armed forces and we moved every year and a half or 2 years, we were always moving into new houses. And so it turned out that a young man had taken his life in the basement, and I had seen it at 4 years old. And so she just wanted to stop that. And so she was very effective at that. I had no paranormal, well, relatively few paranormal experiences as I was growing up, but there were just too many weird things happening. So life went on, and I went to university and became a fine artist, but I eventually became a chartered investment manager, and I worked in the investment world. And life's a journey. It's also a process. And I had one boss. He was amazing, and he said one day, "I'm going home to meditate." It was Friday night, and I was so curious. Meditate? Well, how do you do that? I wanted to know. And so he said, "Well, you sit down in an armchair, plant your feet on the floor, and you imagine the most beautiful place in the world with water and sunlight." And as he was talking, I was imagining myself in a beautiful place. He was talking, and I could suddenly see myself climbing up this cliff. And there was water trickling down the cliff, and there was beautiful dark green, bright green moss. And he said, "Okay, I'm off for the weekend. Have a great weekend. See ya." And so I locked the door. I was in big ticket leasing at the time. We had a lovely boardroom. So I sat in the boardroom chair with the armchair, and I closed my eyes, pictured myself in this beautiful place. And suddenly I was back on this cliff, walking or climbing up the cliff. And there was water and trickling down, and it was just breathtakingly beautiful. It was very real. I could even smell the fresh, clean air. And I looked down and I noticed that I was wearing a buckskin tunic of some kind. And I thought, oh no, it's doe skin. And I'm like, how do I know that? And I got to the top of the cliff, and I'm sitting there, and it's just amazing. It's a beautiful experience. And then suddenly this hand reaches down, and this young man pulls me out, and I have this incredible experience of getting married to him, having children, living a full life. And then I am dying, and suddenly this head bursts through this beautiful vision. And it's like a planet, and it's just turning, just spinning. And I'm looking at this head, and it's a man, and he has a cleft chin, and he kind of looks like Michael Douglas, the actor, but he's not Michael Douglas. He has sun-bleached hair. And I'm staring at him and thinking, who are you? Who are you? Anyway, I just snap out of it, and I went to go home that night. It was a hot summer night in Toronto, and I was walking down the street. I caught yes.
Can I interrupt you? Anne she's back online now. I guess her Zoom or something was down. Anyways, I just got a text from her. They're all in the room. If we'd all like to leave and go back to her room.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I am so sorry.
Again, no, that's okay. Technical difficulties.
Oh, hold on. She said, we will come over there. Okay. I'm getting texts in case you're wondering. Okay.
Thank you.
We're coming over here. I'm so
all
sorry.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great. I'm glad that two halves are connecting. Okay. Well, I'll keep telling.
Good job you're telling your story here now, so people will have to catch up with the rest on a recording.
Yeah. Well, I've got so many stories, so I'll finish this one quickly. So essentially, I got onto a streetcar. There was an accident. As soon as I stepped on to the streetcar rear-ended this car, and so now I had to disembark, and streetcars were lined up for miles. I wound up going. Trying to figure out how to get home. And I walked up, and I wound up going to a movie. I wanted to see The Unbearable Lightness of Being. I'd heard it was a good movie, and I went to the Carlton Cinema where it was playing. But when I went to get the ticket, they said, no, it doesn't come on for another 2 hours. And I said, well, what's available? And they said this movie called Beatrice. So I said, okay, fine, I'll go to that. I didn't know what it was about. It was a French foreign film. It had subtitles, but there was air conditioning. So I sat in this empty theater, and I'm just sitting there relaxing, enjoying the air conditioning. There's no one else in the theater, just me. And then the door opens up, and it's totally dark. The movie hasn't come on yet. And this couple walk in, and they're arguing, and they're furious at each other, and they're cursing at each other. They're really quite nasty. And I had my legs stretched out on a briefcase. I took an end seat so I could put my briefcase out and just relax and recline. And they pushed in front of me, so I had to move the briefcase very quickly so they didn't take my legs off. And they sat beside me, and they continued arguing. I couldn't look because I was afraid they'd get me involved in their argument. And I guess the son forgot to pick up the mom at the airport. They were cursing at each other, and then suddenly they get up and they leave. And the movie starts, and then it's about the 100-year war. There's this beautiful girl named Beatrice, and the whole thing is about abuse. Her father comes back from the war. He was a prisoner of war, and the brother, and they're all very terrified of this father. And the father basically abuses his daughter. It's a really horrible situation. And then within a week, oh yes, the father, I'm looking at the father as he rides into the scene on screen, and there he is. He's got a cleft chin. He kind of looks like Michael Douglas. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's the guy I saw in my vision. And then the whole story of abuse unfolded. So within a week, I'd met my future ex-husband and married him. And so then unfolded, my house, my home became a bit of a prison. Every time I came home, it was verbal, emotional abuse, and eventually physical abuse. And I finally got out. But I will tell you what I learned about abuse, because apparently I attracted it throughout my life. Although I had lovely parents and family, it turned out I'd had something else that happened to me. But kids that have trauma, that experience abuse, that are in dangerous situations, they actually, it's a weird kind of gift, because they can become more psychic. They can become more connected. They're always on alert. They're always hyper vigilant. They're watching. They're reading signs. They're looking for signs of sweat. I remember looking at the glistening of people's face, skin, and I knew they were going to be violent. So that was the gift of whatever I'd experienced, but I didn't have any memory of any trauma. And that's where Michael Sheridan comes in, because he said in 2007, based on one of my dreams, that I had been attacked as a child, but not by my father, but by a man. And I worked for years trying to figure out what that was. I couldn't surface anything. So I see Ann Tucker's there. Why don't I let Ann?
Hi, you guys. So I have COVID and I fell asleep.
Oh.
So I'm really sorry, but it's been a heck of a week and I thought I was going to be fine. I just conked out. So thank you so much for sticking with us, and thank you for being resourceful and setting up a separate Zoom. I'm really, really grateful. So I'm just going to take a back seat and let you guys lead things. I'm happy to be here with you.
How long do you want me on here, Ann?
We usually go about an hour. So just let it go as you feel pulled or called, but we usually have about an hour together.
So that makes it another 15 minutes, or keep going?
I think about another 15
Well, you
minutes.
started late, so.
Started late, yeah. So what time did you start?
15 minutes ago.
Okay. Oh, okay. So then let's go. If everybody's willing to stay, let's keep going. Why don't we go for, another, however long you feel like you need to go, but half hour, another half hour, 45 minutes, whatever feels natural. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
As long as that works with your schedule and your appointments today.
Yeah, it's good for me, and anyone can just bail whenever they want. Yeah, it's
fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Glad you're alive.
I am too. That's what I would describe me as, alive.
Okay, well, maybe go back to sleep.
Thank you. I am going to. I'm going to be here though, but I will be quiet.
Okay. Well, thank you for setting this up, Ann. That really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for persevering and coming through. Okay, so I'll get back to the story. So there was some undercurrent throughout my life, and I didn't know what it was. But moving fast forward, I became a chartered investment manager. I finished university, studied investment management, had a 25-year career, and I really got into that. I thought I would retire and be a bit of a jet setter. I thought I'd do very well. I had no interest in, I had a mild interest in the paranormal. I read a few books, but I wound up going to, actually it was, I guess Anne was, she published on this event, the story on the back of my book. And that was a situation where in February 11th, 2001, I started seeing visions of the future, because after I had this abusive marriage, And I realized there was a connection to me. I received warnings, prophetic warnings that I ignored. And so I just decided never to meditate again. I decided to never go into trance. And so for 10 years, I didn't. But then eventually I started meditating again. And I started meditating and I started to see visions of the future. So I saw, for example, September 11th, but I saw that on February 11th, 2001. I also saw hundreds of people sitting on the other side of the veil. And I realized that hundreds had died, maybe thousands. And I didn't know why, I just knew they had. And I was positioned in front of one. And if you could imagine being at a worm's eye view, looking up at this group, and they all looked like death. And I was positioned in front of this one young man, and he had long, heavy dark hair, very thick dark hair, thick bushy eyebrows, and a very long, narrow face. And I was staring at him going like, who are you? Who are you? I did that a lot. When I saw visions, I'd see people in the future and I'd be like, who are you? Who are you? And I thought, oh, maybe he's my future husband. So I started memorizing his face. And I took it in as much as I could. And then suddenly I'm rising up and I'm ascending. And there's this kind of like blood and water just washing over the whole group. And I thought, oh my gosh, thousands will die. So September 11th happened. And then fast forward, I was watching CBC, The Passionate Eye, and it was a documentary on one of the people who had attacked the New York on September 11th, and he had died. And it was a story. He was a young man. He went to university. He was going to get married. He looked like a very sweet man, but I guess he got involved in this attack. And they showed a video of him dancing at a party, and I'm looking at him and I'm going like, the long face, he looks familiar. It was the guy that I thought was going to be my future husband. He was one of the terrorists who had died. So I would see things like that. And I became quite nervous because the veil between the physical world and the non-physical world became increasingly very thin. I was sitting on my bed one time reading a book, and then there was this blinding light to my right, and I didn't want to look. I just, don't want to look. I don't want to look. But I looked, and I looked over, and this, instead of my wall, there was a gaping hole in the wall, this blinding light, and this beautiful woman who I recognized as a former neighbor when I was in the Air Force, when I was a kid. She came, her head just came through and she said, how can I help you, my dear? And I was like, and then it was gone, And so things like that would happen. The non-physical world would jump out. And I didn't know like why, because I was always, it was like a shock. At one point I was afraid that I would, fall through the floor or walk through a wall. The veil became very, very thin. And I started to see through the eyes of people. I saw through the eyes of, I guess, terrorists. I saw through the eyes of people that were experiencing trauma. One time I found myself looking through the eyes of a guy who was putting on his hockey skates, and he skates. Actually, a friend of mine gave me a little personal item. He clued in that I was getting very psychic, and he said, do a reading for me. I thought, a reading? I don't know how to do a reading. He goes, here, take this, just meditate on it. So I sat there and nothing happened. And then I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I got this electrical charge from this thing that I was holding right up through my arm. And suddenly I was looking out of the eyes of this hockey player. The hockey player puts on his skates, and then suddenly he's, if you can imagine, I'm in his head looking through his eyes. So I'm seeing this view like that as he's skating. And then it's like, and I feel agonizing pain, physical pain and emotional pain all at once. And I snap out of it. So my friend calls me the next day and he goes, so I said, started analyzing. I said, so do you feel any apprehension around hockey? Did you have any traumatic experience when you were at a hockey game? Is there any issue around hockey? He goes, no, no, no. And then finally he says, what did you see? So I learned then I was a terrible psychic. I had no clue what anything meant. So I just told him what I saw. It meant nothing to him until 2 weeks later, when his younger brother asked him and his middle brother to play hockey. And me having seen this vision, he decided, no, I'm a little too old for that game, contact sport. And his middle brother and the younger brother played hockey, and the middle brother had a terrible accident, and he mangled his left knee and was out of commission for a long time. And he was self-employed. They had a special needs child who needed a lot of physical help. So that was the emotional trauma, and the physical trauma, I actually felt that pain. So all of these things were about doom and gloom visions of the future. And then I met a guy who was very interested in Buddhism. And so he convinced me to go to this week of Tibetan mystical something or other. So we went in Windsor, Ontario. We spent a week with these Tibetan Buddhist monks. And prior to us going, though, I had this vision of a diamond lantern. It was an Asian lantern, and that's where the name of my book comes from, Diamond Lantern, Waking Up to Who You Really Are. It's really my story, but story of awakening. And I saw this diamond lantern, and I thought, what does that mean? What does that mean? And at the same time I saw the vision of the lantern, there was a clock, and it moved fast forward to about 3:15. So it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, because I woke up and I saw this. So I sat and I waited in bed till about 3:15, and nothing happened. I thought, oh, well, so much for that. And so, but the next day we were going to a lecture by all of these Tibetan Buddhist monks and different monks. We did all these different meditations. I was a real skeptic. I really am a terrible skeptic. I didn't really believe what they were doing. I didn't believe in what they were saying. So, but I was watching them all do these meditations. So we did walking meditations, sitting meditations. And at one point, I noticed that I could see their auras. And this one gentleman who'd come in to the class, the room, he had white robes on. And I was a little skeptical about that until I saw his aura. And he was like very thick, a very thick aura with a sort of a navy blue tint to it. It was a beautiful deep blue. And I'd never seen that before, because I could see auras. And I thought, what's that? Because most people were green or yellow or red or blue. And I kind of got, okay, that guy's high energy, that guy's cerebral. Okay, I get why he's here. This guy's a healer, a nurturer. Okay, I get that. But then I'm like, what's this? And so I realized when I went home that he was super psychic. It was indigo. And so later I told him, or I just asked him, I said, do you see auras? He goes, no. I said, well, are you super psychic? And he said, yes, I am. He said, I walk with the masters. This gentleman would go into trance and walk with ascended masters. And we wound up spending a lot of time with him, and I learned a lot from him. But he turned out to be very grateful, because he couldn't see auras, and it validated what he was experiencing. Also, because he was the driver for these Tibetan Buddhist monks, he was very grateful for, he'd felt inadequate, like, who am I to drive around these monks who are so practiced, so deep and incredibly psychic, meditative, and good, all about alleviating suffering. Who am I to drive these gentlemen around? And he suddenly felt more worthy, because he realized he had a spiritual gift. So as I became very respectful, very reverent, less skeptical, but I'm still a skeptic, of some of the stuff that I saw. So fast forward again, I was now on the spiritual path. So I'd moved from seeing doom and gloom visions of what might happen in the future to visions that would push me onto the path of enlightenment. I should mention that while we were sitting there with the Tibetan Buddhist monks, there was a Q&A session after the meditation. And they were talking about, I guess people were asking questions. And one of the questions was, well, what teachings do you study? And they said the Heart Sutra, and then someone mentioned the Diamond Sutra. And because I'd seen the Diamond Lantern, I went, no, what are you talking about? What is that? They said, oh, that's one of Buddha's teachings. And I said, no, like, why is it called Diamond Sutra, not lead or granite? They said, oh, because the Diamond Sutra cuts the shortest path to enlightenment. That was it. I became Buddhist. I signed up. I wanted the short, quick path to enlightenment. So for 7 years, I studied Tibetan Buddhism. I did hours and hours and hours and hours of meditation. I worked with different teachers. Lama Ole Nidal is one that I love dearly, from Norway, I believe, but he was a traveling teacher. And as I did all of these meditations and all of these, I guess you'd be saying mantras, certain mantras would alleviate suffering. One would get rid of anger, one would get rid of sorrow, that kind of thing. You'd have to do them like 111,000 times. And they were very repetitive because I was in trance all the time. Of course, and being psychic, I would see things. So one time I saw a hand reaching out. I was just walking along the street. That's another thing. I'd be walking along the street. I wouldn't necessarily be in a trance state. I'd just be walking with my friends. And then suddenly someone would appear in front of me. And one time it was the Panchen Lama, and he was reaching out. Now the Panchen Lama was kidnapped by the Chinese like years ago, and no one's really known whatever happened to him. But there he was. It took me a while to figure out who it was, but I figured it out later because there are photos and stuff. And then another time I saw Buddha. I assumed it was Buddha. It was just a man sitting there looking at me. He was in a loincloth, and he was just staring at me, and had the most beautiful face, like Keanu Reeves, but more beautiful. Oh, nice. So Jessica says, I've been seeing diamonds everywhere and have diamond sheets. Okay, check out the Diamond Sutra. So in Tibetan Buddhism, you think of diamond mind. That's what we're all trying to achieve, is diamond mind, and sensing, seeing, becoming more aware, having clear, crystal clear vision. But I'll continue. So I saw Buddha, and I kind of got a little sort of a pat on the head as you're doing good, because I was walking down the street one time, and I was practicing walking meditation. So no feeling, no thought. I just was observing. I was just present. I was able to keep this up all morning. So I knew it was possible after I did it at that time. But as I was walking in this very, very peaceful state, I felt enormous love for everyone that would walk by. And one guy was looking kind of scary, and I just felt just so much love for him. This love surfaced as soon as I went into a really deep meditative state. I would feel this incredible love. And then suddenly I heard the word in my right ear, Shakyamuni. And I thought, what's that? I don't know what that is. And I puzzled about that all day. And when I got back from work, I Googled, and Shakyamuni was one of the names of the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, because he was a sage of the Shakyas. So I thought, oh my goodness. I saw so many visions of Buddha, like with his eyes hollowed out. I thought they'd been burned out, but then I realized that was his ascetic period when he wasn't eating or drinking. He was basically shriveling. And so I saw him with, like, his eyes were like raisins. So, okay, I just wanted to, my goal at that point, because I wrote the book Diamond Lantern after a bunch of other paranormal experiences. And after I wrote that, I thought, okay, I got this figured out. I understand how the meaning of life. I understand how the world works. I understand how the non-physical world works, because I had this idea that I understood everything now. And one night I was saying to myself, like, I get this. I just want to die and work with Buddha and alleviate suffering, from the astral plane, though not in physical form. I'm tired of this life. This life is crazy. This physical world doesn't make any sense. The non-physical world, that makes sense. So I was actually getting angry at God, and I always believed in God, by the way. And I wasn't big on Christianity because I'd seen a demon in a church when I was in high school, and I just didn't even realize, it wasn't even conscious. I just kind of walked away from Christianity. But I thought, okay, I just want to leave the earth now and get to serious work on the astral plane with Buddha. And I was angry at God because I was still alive. And I thought, once you achieve everything you need to achieve, you just blink out. Like, why am I still alive? Why am I still trudging through this dreary life? And I fell asleep with this kind of like, come on, take me idea in my head. And the next morning I woke up and I saw this vision appear. It was EVAC in capital letters, evac. It was neon red and neon yellow. And I thought, evac, like what? Evacuate? Like what? Slit my throat? Like what? Like leave? What? And I puzzled over that all day. And then I finally got home from work because I was in the institutional investment world while this stuff was going on. And I Googled, thank goodness for Google, and evac, there it was. It was a little video game, and there was a demonstration, a little demo. It was a YouTube video. And so I clicked on the demo, and it showed this little pink icon trying to go through this maze, with all these, a bit like Pac-Man, all these dangers and stuff. Then it all faded away, and these words appear, and it said, to get out, you must go through. And I thought, oh, okay, fine. I'll go through the rest of my life. Okay, fine. All right. So I couldn't imagine what would happen after countless paranormal experiences. I thought, what else? I got this. I thought I was done with all of that. And then something made me want to go to the Monroe Institute. Michael wants to know, do I still want a terrorist as a husband? No, I'm good. I'm good. Good question. I'm the worst psychic in the world. Oh well. So I went. I found myself going to the Monroe Institute. A bunch of things happened, and we'll get into that. And the Monroe Institute, I heard about it. A guy was talking about Robert Monroe and his astral traveling. And as soon as I heard Robert Monroe, it was like bells went off, and I thought, I've got to do that. I've got to go there. It took me a long time, but I finally went there. And when I went there, I did learn to astral travel. They use binaural beats. You're in a little private check unit, your own little cubby hole, and you go into trance every hour, in and out, in and out, in and out of trance, which takes you very deeply into trance. And all these things happened, and I wound up colliding on the astral plane with a past life husband. And it was, think of thousands of fireworks going off in your body. It was more love than you could imagine, and more intense than imaginable, and more like, it was like fireworks. And he was in physical form too, but he was a lot younger than I was. So it didn't make any sense. I was happy. I had a boyfriend in Alberta, and none of this made any sense. But when I first saw him in physical form, it's like he walked in to the room, and which was filled with other students. And I saw him, and it was like I split into two. One half of me said, I'm too old, I'm too old, I'm too old. And the other half of me said, what, I'm a cougar? Like, who are you? Like, who's talking? It was like, oh, there's a beautiful deer outside my window. Wow. I don't see that every day. So I just want to say that's got to be a good sign. All's well with the world. Anyway, I split in two. I ran downstairs, bawled my eyes out, cried, and then I I had to get myself back, get back to normal. I'm a trained professional. I was an vice president of institutional sales. What am I doing? Crying, spontaneous like that. And to make a very long story short, we wound up being connected at the soul level. And neither of us could figure it out. It took us a year to figure out what the connection was. And it was a twin flame connection. But I will tell you, I learned maybe the hard way that twin flames are not always what you hope they're going to be or what you think they're going to be. It's not about coming together as a couple, living, having kids, living happily ever after. No, it's about activation. Meeting him was like this activation of my spiritual gifts. For him and me, we are sort of like parallel lines, and we might come together, come apart, come together, come apart. But he's got his life, I've got my life, but we're kind of on the same mission. So that's when I really learned about a soul's mission. Now, he was a past life husband. I saw him in another lifetime. And so I thought, well, that's the connection. So I needed to understand reincarnation. So I became a hypnotist. I went back, I didn't see him again. And I went back to, I moved to Toronto and studied hypnosis. And that's when going in and out of trance so many times, becoming a hypnotist, taking metaphysical hypnosis, like past life regression, I finally, after all these courses and practice, finally was in a very deep state of trance. And a friend of mine who was a Hindu monk, he had guided me into trance. It should have been like a 10-minute induction. Instead, he said, oh, I've got an intuitive vibe to change it up. And so he took 25 minutes to guide me into trance and was chanting Hindu chants, had an amazingly rich voice. And I became so deep in trance. I was just slumped over in my chair. And I was in this experience, and in the distance, I saw a man carrying a big book. And my friend said, who is the man? And it was Jesus. He was larger than life and more real than you and me. And he said, I worked for him. And I was like, what? Like, and it was Palm Sunday, 2012, Palm Sunday, 2012. And I'm thinking, it's 2012. Like, that's not, what? I'm supposed to, beg on the streets? Like, what? And he also said, you failed me, but you have a second chance to make it up. I thought, oh, goodness, I can think of 1,000 ways I failed Jesus. I didn't really follow Jesus. I didn't see a need for Jesus. I didn't see a need for Christianity. I didn't really see a need for any of this. So, and thus begun the most recent journey, which is the last decade, I guess, where in 2013, I was in Halifax, and my dear twin flame had bought me a session with a masseuse, an Ashiatsu masseuse, where you're doing it's Japanese massage where they're walking on your back. And it was incredible. I was so deep in trance because it was so relaxing. It was like lifetimes of stress were just being wafted away with her feet, which felt like angels' feet. And Jesus appeared, and I'm like, what? He goes, wait for it. I thought, oh, okay. So I'm just like I'm melting. I'm like butter just on this massage table. And then she spoke very strangely. She said, tears will fall. And I thought, no, stiff upper lip Brit, not going to happen. And the next thing I know, I'm bawling my eyes out. And she said, what happened? And suddenly I saw myself in a past life, and a Roman spear was coming right through my back, which is where I had a knot. For all of my life. I could never get this knot out of my back. No masseuse could clear it. Well, she cleared it. She said, what happened? And I said, oh, there was a Roman soldier. Anyway, I told her the whole story, and she didn't say another word. And then she told me to flip over. And as I was flipping over so she could massage my back, I saw her aura. And it was, suddenly I had this memory And it was like she was my dearest friend that I haven't seen for 50 years. And I loved her so much. And I said, I started crying again. I know you. She goes, yes, we have known each other for a long, long time. And I'm like, okay. So I just roll with it. And then she tells me to get back on, and Jesus is still there, by the way. He's just sitting there. I'm like, was that it? He goes, no, wait for it. So then I'm back. She tells me to flip over again. And now I'm on my knees on this massage table, and she's holding up this sheet for privacy. And then I see the wings. I'm like, ah, she's an angel. And then I just lost it. Jesus is gone. I'm like, oh. And I remember being angry because they don't tell you how to present yourself in the presence of divinity. And I'm like, I wanted to prostrate on the ground, but I'm on a massage table. It was so awkward. And I was like, you're an angel. I didn't know what to do. Now, I will tell you, I didn't believe in angels until that moment. And after that, I guess she cracked open my consciousness, because after that I could see angels. And they have beautiful auras of like pillars of blue-white light. And so after that, I started to see them. And that's when they started to take over my life. So in 2014, I wound up here at the cottage in New Brunswick. My mother had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I came here to help her. She wound up being taken into special care. And I will tell you, she's 91 and she's amazing. She's doing okay. So that was a long time ago. Yeah, it's been 10 years. Wow. So I come to the cottage and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I have to sell this place. I have to fix it. I called my uncle. I said, what do I do? He says, you got to fix it. So I had contractors coming in. I wasn't employed. I lost my job. That's another story. I kept losing my jobs in the corporate world. It was like a carpet kept being pulled out from under me. I had way too many jobs in a short period of time. I kept getting them again, but then I'd lose them. They'd go bankrupt, or they'd suddenly tell me to leave because they were closing the office or something. It was weird. I thought it was strange at the time. So I come here, and that's when I'm alone in this cottage, and at night, 19 angels appeared, and they said, Elizabeth, you can only heal others to the level at which you yourself are healed. We're going to heal you so that you can heal all. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. And so they took over my life. For the next 6 months, I was translating. And if you could imagine angels using hypnosis, they would take me into trance, and they would guide me into past life after past life after past life. And I'd be crying my eyes out, which is all very healing. So what they were doing was releasing these orbs of negative emotions, releasing these memories, so that I was becoming lighter and lighter and lighter. And as you'll hear when I'm channeling, the angels are saying lighter and lighter, your energy's glowing brighter and brighter, you're moving higher and higher. So that's what was happening. Jesus said in 2012, I need you to lighten up. I thought, drop a few pounds, okay. No, he said, lighten up in every sense of the word lighten. And that meant no meat, no alcohol, no caffeine, no sugar, hours and hours of yoga. 20 ascended masters showed up, and they pushed me into all these positions for hours, the longest being 7 hours and 40 minutes without a break. So all of that, I didn't know where it was leading until I wound up, my dear friend Krista, she came, she asked me to teach her what she hadn't learned. We'd taken hypnosis together, and I'd taken all these courses, but I kept going with the masters in clinical hypnosis, etc. So, and during that master's class, by the way, I should say, I was auditing the master's class. And after all of these hypnosis classes, I mean, countless hypnosis classes and hypnosis experiences, that's when a repressed memory surfaced. And it turned out that the reason I was anxious, depressed, and really a nervous wreck most of my life, terrified of being alone at night, is because I had a male babysitter from age 4 to 5 that was repeatedly raping me. I had no idea until it all came back. And that's the healing. That was more of the healing. So Jesus said, when that experience happened, Jesus had said, we had to shock you into this, or you'd never have stepped on the path. And that was my life, all these shocks. So when I was with my friend Krista, we went to the Dominican, and I started just facilitating traditional hypnosis. And she was just being a good subject. And then suddenly the angels stepped in and they took over. And they rewired me so they would step in, and they had control of my vocal cords, they had control of my hands. And so that's why when I'm channeling, you'll see me go, like that, and all these things. Where is it that you went? Where did I go? I'm not sure.
We can see you fine.
Oh, the Dominican. I don't know. It was a lovely retreat, though. I would go back in a flash. Gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah, I went to the Dominican with Krista, and I don't know what retreat, but divine intervention. It was $500 for the air travel, the room, all inclusive. Oh, that was definitely divine intervention. We were meant to be there. So Krista is now a channel, and a lot of the people that I work with become channels, and some of them are here. So that is the story, kind of a fast, condensed version. My Kundalini is good hearing you. I'm from the Dominican Republic myself. Okay. Lovely. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. As I'm talking, you're actually receiving energy. Yay, Camille. She became a channel. When I'm talking, the angels are transmitting healing energies. Sometimes you can see it. It's blue-white light. Some of my clients they just become turquoise with blue-white light, and negative emotions will clear. You'll see past life trauma, like strangulation marks, bruises, will surface and then just go away like smoke. I've seen all kinds of very strange phenomena and photographed it too. It's very visible. So all of you have received healing energy and clearing energy. And okay, yes, I moved, and many of my clients move a lot. A lot of my clients move, especially lately, because there's more energies coming through. Sometimes I feel like a tube with air compressed, because it's like wham, and I have no control over that. The angels are pushing through so much energy through me to you, to clients, and to the world, and through all the people that have worked with me, and the ones that are doing the work. So here's the work. This is how it works. The angels taught again and again to just take a deep breath, close your eyes, and move your awareness to the light. Ask God, ask Christ, ask the angelic realm to heal, and ascended masters, divine specialists, to heal you, clear you, however you need to be healed, cleared, or made aware, and keep moving up. That is essentially how they work now. And that's what happens when I'm channeling. I'm actually just moving up. So there it is. I'll leave it at that. And thank you.
Fantastic, Elizabeth. I know everybody is, I mean, it's just amazing to hear some of the things you've witnessed and seen. Just mind blowing. And I think we're all very grateful that you followed your path like you did.
Oh, thank you, Anne. I appreciate it. And I'm grateful to everyone who's following their path. Like, it's so important. You've got to trust, trust, trust. I mean, how many times have I heard that? Trust, trust, trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's and so can you tell us a little bit about what's in your book?
Yeah. So
And I didn't hear the part you said where you saw a diamond lantern. I didn't follow that. Where did you see the diamond lantern?
So I was living in Windsor at the time, probably Bell River, and that was right before we were going to be seeing the Tibetan Buddhist monks. It was a week of Tibetan Buddhist mysticism, and the mayor had made this official. So the Tibetan Buddhists were going to come and create a sand mandala for conflict resolution between Canada and the States right in Windsor. And so we went to the whole thing. But before, in advance of that, I woke up and saw this vision of this lantern. Now, it's not like the illustrator put a big diamond on my book, but I saw an Asian lantern with thousands or hundreds of diamonds. And it was just suspended in midair. And I'm staring at it going like, what? And then I saw the clock move fast forward. So I forgot to say, when I was in the class, and it was a Q&A session in the meditation class, and I asked about the Diamond Sutra, as soon as the gentleman said, oh, the diamond cuts the shortest path to enlightenment, my boyfriend elbowed me in the ribs and showed me his watch, and it was the time I'd seen in my vision.
Oh, wow. Wow. Isn't that cool?
So yeah, there's probably a few details I missed out, but that book is about all the events that happened up to 2010. And my next book will be when Jesus showed up, about twin flames and when the angels took control of my life. Yeah.
Super cool. And you've been working on that already, right? Is that going to be done soon, do you think?
Yeah, that's hopefully in the next year. I've got 1,300 pages right now, and I have to start cuddling. It might be several books. I realize there's probably 2 or 3 books in there. Yeah. But it's explanatory so that people can do what I've done, to follow the path that I've taken if they dare.
Yes. So the book is available on Amazon, right?
Yeah, that's on Amazon. You can get it on my website, actually. That's probably the best way, but you can get it on Kindle as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if people wanted to contact you or potentially book a session, would also be through your website, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. Could you give us your website?
Yeah. The Rose Cottage NB for New Brunswick @gmail.com. So THEROSE Cottage NB @gmail.com.
And your website?
That is
email.
The website. Oh no, sorry, that was email. Okay, website is therosecottage.ca.
Perfect. Okay. Rosecottage.ca. Perfect. All right. Well, Elizabeth, I knew you were going to be a phenomenal guest. So thank you. I think it kind of shatters. I love the story of just that feeling of not knowing, like feeling like you're going to fall through the dimensions. That is when the veil gets very, very thin. That is and it had to be frightening. That had to be a scary experience, I imagine.
It was. There were so many shocks. It was shocking. And I was afraid. I was reluctant to meditate. Like I said, I didn't meditate for 10 years because everything was so prophetic. And I didn't know if I was making it happen, because I would see it and then it would happen. Did I make that happen?
Right.
I didn't know. So I thought, I didn't even wish on stars anymore. Like, I'm good. I'm good. I never asked for anything after that. I think, no, good. Yeah, I did so much visualization, and it all happened. And if you ask for something that you shouldn't, there's going to be a repercussion. I learned the hard way. Yeah. So learn from my mistakes. Don't break the rules of the universe.
It seems like that should be intuitive, but not, right?
Because we're tempted, right?
Yeah.
We see a beautiful house. We think, oh, I want that house. And we start visualizing that house. Well, the guy in the house might die, and you are causing that. It's amazing how much, Michael knows about projecting your thoughts. People that are particularly good at remote healing, remote viewing, and hypnosis, they're good at projecting. So in the words of Jesus, guard your thoughts. Yeah, he came through one time and told me that. And I thought, oh, okay. Yeah, I've learned from mistakes for what it's worth.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for giving us the extra time because of our slow start today. And thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. I know it was worth it. So I know you're glad you came. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
So much. We'll see you guys. We'll be back together again for Wisdom Soup next month, always on the second Thursday of the month. So I will be sending out another notification soon. But thank you so much for joining us, you guys.
Thank you, Anne, and be well. We'll all pray for
I'm
you.
working on it. I'm working on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.